Welcome back. We now move on to discussing a topic that has become increasingly important in cybersecurity and the modern workplace, shadow AI. As artificial intelligence tools become more accessible and widely used, many employees as well as organizations are adopting them faster than policies and security frameworks can keep up. Now, while these tools can improve productivity and innovation, they also raise important questions around data privacy, security, governance, as well as risk management. To help us unpack this evening, I'm joined virtually by Munyaradzi Chadenga, the Virtual Chief Information Security Officer at Cimplicity Institute. Munyaradzi, good evening and thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Nina. Thank you for having me again.
Munyaradzi, for people hearing, the term for the first time, what exactly is shadow AI and how's it different from traditional cybersecurity risks?
Right. So I think first things first, what we need to talk about is shadow AI is not the bad guys. It's not the bad guys that are trying to hack us. It's not the criminals. Shadow AI is actually something that's happening within our own businesses. Now, think about it this way, right? We have a brand new product, we have a brand new piece of technology, AI, everybody's using it, and it's getting the job done faster. But now envision yourself as an HR manager. You're an HR manager, you've got 1,000 new resumes to review. You found a nifty little AI tool that allows you to take all 1,000 of these resumes, filter them down, and give you 5 good candidates that you can look towards shortlisting, right? That allows you to have efficiency. It allows you to get the job done. Now, imagine you are doing it from an HR perspective. There's 2 or 3 other HR people who are also using their own tools. That means that all of the company information, all of these resume informations with ID numbers, phone numbers, personal information like addresses, are all being put into these AI tools that are going up into the internet, into what I like to call the cyber black hole, so to speak. So we're not securing that data. You see, and that's where the problem is. Everybody's using a different piece of technology, and everybody is pulling from the company's important critical information and putting it back out online.
So just tell us a little bit about why it's become such a prominent, issue in recent years. This is now shadow AI, and what factors are driving its rapid growth.
So Nina, actually, that's a brilliant question because it puts a timeline to it. Remember, we've been walking down the AI journey for less than 2 years. And when we've moved from the original AI, which is artificial intelligence, which has to do with the machines you sort of helping us with tasks, we've moved into generative AI, where the machines start to create things that we need to get done. And now we've got agentic AI, which can repeat various processes for us efficiently every single time. So AI is progressing. And in the last 6 months or so, we've seen a tremendous explosion of AI capability. So we can't run away from the fact that we need the AI. It is something brand new, and we can see the return. We can see the investment potential and the ability it has to increase, our operational efficiency. However, because it's brand new, because it's new technology, it means that we haven't actually started thinking about how to govern it. We haven't started thinking about how do we put guardrails to ensure that the data within the company, key information, key intellectual property, is not accidentally put into a chat box and set out into the world, and someone else can get into contact with it. So the real risk isn't the AI. The risk is the data that's being filtered into the AI.
And how do we do that? How do we do the guarding from a cybersecurity perspective, Munyaradzi?
So that's also a great question, Nina. So we are working on something called building AI guardrails. So each case scenario comes differently for each business. But let me give you an example. So for example, your business utilizes 5 different staff members. Each of them are using ChatGPT. Someone else is using DeepSeek. Someone else is using Claude AI. Someone else is using Perplexity. These are 4 or 5 different AI models that people are using within your business. Now, the issue is The business itself doesn't even know which data is going into what tool and where it's ending up. For example, some of these AI models are in the States, which means your data is going from Namibia into the internet to America, being processed by those AI engines in America and coming back down to Namibia. You don't know what critical information you're losing in this channel, and you don't know what happens at the other end. Now, what we're trying to do is to set up guardrails. We're starting the conversation to say, first things first, let's understand, let's discover what AI, what we have that we're using within the business, right? So that's always, you know me in my 3 steps, Nina, from last time. So first 3 steps I've been telling everybody. Step number 1, let's discover. Let's identify what we're using within the business. And that's very easy for your technical teams. So your IT teams can already tell what everyone is using.
Right.
These people are using Microsoft, these people are using this. They can see that through their firewalls and the technology that exists in a company. So step 1 isn't difficult. Let's find out what we're using. Now, the next issue is step 2. After we found out what people are using, we need to define a governance thinking around it. So one of the companies that I've interviewed, what they've done before was very, very simple. They just said to the whole business, everybody, we're going to be using Copilot. We are going to pay for the company Copilot, so company data will be found only in Copilot. And then they deactivated every other AI. So they turned off ChatGPT, they turned off DeepSeek. But what they did, which is very unique and I think quite brilliant, is that they turned it off and then they allowed people to apply if they want to use a different model. So I want to use ChatGPT. Copilot isn't getting the job done. Let me fill out this form. I'll give it to my manager. He stamps it, he signs it, and then I'll have exclusive access to a protected version of the tool I want to use that's outside of the sanctioned company tool. That's an easier way, right? So we're building guardrails. We're trying to ensure that people stay on the road. They're protected. They're not going to drive off the cliff. However, because we've plugged in guardrails, it means the company can go faster.
100%. And on that note, is this what you're suggesting as a remedy to companies where, employees are using different AI tools? Because as you mentioned with the HR example that you gave to us, it really is, it does make your work more efficient. But, then some companies might then say we want to control the use of just one AI tool. So is that your suggestion at the end of the day, how to guardrail this, is by saying to a business, look at what the most popular AI tool is being used by the employees, narrow it down to 1 and 2, and that way you can control the information going in and out.
So that's brilliant, Nina. There's something else that will be happening in the background. In the background, the technology experts and the governance experts will sit down and they'll talk to the business and say, let's classify the information we have.
Okay.
Let's make sure that this information is for everyone. This information is secret. This information is top secret. If you remember those top secret, very secret sorts of classification levels from the movies and from our day-to-day, right? So a very top secret document that's being sent from Minister A to Minister B would never reach us, the general public, because it's top secret.
Yeah.
So in a business, your data people, your data teams, your governance teams would sit down with the business leaders and say, how critical is this data? Let's classify it. That way, it becomes a 3-step process. You discover, we identify what tools we're using, we classify the data that the tools can use,
Okay.
and then we govern. We say, we're going to use this one tool for this data up until top secret. Top secret, you cannot access top secret onto this tool, and then everybody can use that tool. It's sort of to ring fence it, and it's to allow us to have a little bit, we cannot stop innovation, Nina, no matter what. So we cannot outright block this technology. We cannot say to everyone, no one uses AI here, because it's impossible. Even universities nowadays are also having to deal with the concept of students using AI. So we can't run away from innovation. All we can do is protect the data that we want to use the innovation for. And that way we can actually come up with a structured way to make sure we know what we're using, we know what the teams are using, and they're using this tool, and this tool is bought, it's paid for, it's protected, and it's within our company defenses.
Yeah. Munyaradzi, just lastly, how do you see, shadow AI evolving over the next few years?
So I love the term shadow AI. It reminds me of back in the day of shadow IT, right? That's
Yes.
where we started with all the shadows. So the shadow AI, it only exists because of the fact that AI is still a new technology and there's many different competing firms.
Yeah.
Eventually we're going to reach a point where there's going to be more AI models that are specific to each type of company. For example, if you're using something like Perplexity, it's much better for research as opposed to if you're using Claude, which is
Yeah.
better for documentation and thought leadership, or you're using ChatGPT, which is great for creating designs and images and all of these other traits, or you're
Yeah.
using DeepSeek, which is great for logic.
Yeah.
Now, each company understands what tools they need. So they will sit down and they'll say, so far, all of our team uses Perplexity. It's a great tool. All of the different departments use it and they find it to be the best tool. So we're going to remove all the other tools, focus on this one tool. And if someone else needs something from ChatGPT, for example, an image, he can write a permission form and we can approve it, an authorization form and we can approve it. That way we can control it and the data.
Munyaradzi, very insightful speaking to you this evening. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Nina. I really appreciate it. Have a great night.
Well, that was Munyaradzi Chadenga speaking to us there on shadow AI and its implications. On that note, we wrap up today's edition of the Daily Roundup. We're back, of course,